Hey, welcome to another episode of DevHub Live. We got a great one today. One I'm really excited about. We have the Mintbase coming in here to talk about everything that they're doing around their templates. And so here at DevHub, we have a mission of onboarding and engaging developers. But one of the questions we always ask is like, how do you get started? Where are we going to actually go from here once I learn about Near and want to start building? And Mintbase, who has been around since the very beginning, are and always been much more than an NFT marketplace, has really started to get into the developer onboarding game through their templates. And I'm super excited to bring on Jordan from Mintbase, who's going to talk about it. Jordan himself is a longtime Nearian. He has a huge history, as can talk about probably so many things and do probably a whole 8 hours of episodes with Jordan. But we're going to start and talk about Mintbase and their templates specifically. Maybe we'll get into some other stuff. But I'm super excited about this episode today. So let's bring Jordan up.
Hey, thanks for having me. Super excited to be here.
Yeah, thanks, Jordan. Thanks, Jordan. So, again, yeah, you obviously you personally have a long history, and so does Mintbase. But maybe let's talk a little bit about right off the bat of, what is Mintbase today?
Yeah. So I think that when people think of Mintbase, the first thing that comes to mind is kind of the marketplace because that's a lot of people's touch point with the crypto ecosystem in general is kind of NFTs, and they've seen the Mintbase marketplace in the past. And that's kind of been the home and landing page where a lot of people encounter Mintbase first. But behind that is actually a ton of developer tooling, and that marketplace has just kind of served as an example of what you can build on top of Mint-based technology. So under the hood, there's Mint-based JS, allowing you to use JavaScript to do a bunch of NFT things, and then also the GraphQL indexer that allows you to get at all the data. And those tools are what enable the marketplace. And then because people kind of don't know about a lot of the developer tooling behind the scenes that enable the marketplace, we started the templates initiative to make it a lot more visible and obvious that all of this technology is available and that developers can easily reach for it and find success like right off the bat, just as easy as cloning a template and seeing that, oh, now I can have people log in with a wallet, or now I can have people like using digital assets with their like Stripe accounts or whatever other stores they want to connect it to. So that's what we're doing with the templates, is making it even more obvious and easy for developers to grab this thing if they're coming from a Web 2 background, or I mean, hopefully even creators who don't necessarily have a development background can use the tools. But then continuing to push on, under the hood, having all these developer tools available, and through that, enable the next billion users is the goal.
Yeah. No, that's really exciting. I love one thing I've always really appreciated about Mintbase is you guys have always taken an approach of how do we simplify this for any type of user. While the team is very technical and there's some really top minds over at Mintbase, everything was always geared towards like the most basic user case. And so it seems like that's always been like the approach. Am I right on that?
Absolutely, yeah. And that was one of the things that honestly first got me into the near ecosystem, was seeing back in the day the create base guild was a thing, and the way that creators were so supported and the active community around it made it obvious that Mintbase's heart was in the right place. It was there for enabling creators, for the decentralization. And they've stayed true to that, and through the years, it's been awesome watching the growth and all the cool things being built. And yeah, it's a real pleasure to join the team and help line up all that cool stuff that's been built with users going forward, and drive the growth there.
Yeah, for sure. So that's a great transition. Can you talk a little bit about your background in Near? I know there's so much you could go into. You don't have to go the whole history, but maybe just a little bit of like where you kind of got started, and then now like your role of like what does it mean to like run growth at Mintbase?
Yeah, yeah. So, my like tip just toe in the water of how I got into crypto was through the Kodame Art and Tech nonprofit that I've run for over 12 years now. And that is an entity that my co-founder Bruno and I started to help technologists get comfortable with the idea of creation and play and help artists get comfortable with the idea of technology as a material. And we would throw a yearly festival. And when COVID hit, we dove into NFTs and found a lot of success with it. But then we also had a lot of feedback from our artists that, crypto was hard and weird and kind of felt like a scam and all these other things. So I did a lot of research on different platforms, chains, etc., and really liked what I saw around Near and with the Mintbase crowd, and so brought a lot of artists over to the ecosystem through that. At the time, I was working at Google, shipping material design, and then through kind of dipping my toes in the water with Kodame and Mintbase and these Near NFTs, found an opportunity in the Near ecosystem to start building out DAO tooling and enabling communities like Kodame, but doing it on like a much larger scale where, my effort for impact could go 100x if I was building platforms that could enable communities like my own. So took the deep dive at that point, joined Near Foundation full time, and built out AstroDAO, which was the leading DAO tooling on Near for a while, and now it has evolved into Astra DAO. And then also at Near Foundation was part of kind of a skunk works where had free reign to try out a lot of different things. And one of the most successful experiments that came from that was Tank, which was early NFT tooling that allowed people to do generative collections on Near. So through AstroDAO and Tank have built a lot of infra in the Near ecosystem. At the peak, we had over 2 billion locked in AstroDAO, and we've seen hundreds of millions through Tank contracts. So happy to bring all that to Mintbase, all that experience, and drive similar growth there.
Yeah, that's. I mean, you certainly have been around. I think one of the first NFT mints I got involved with and just did as an end user was definitely through Tank, and just I think what people sometimes forget or take for granted is, there is so much great stuff on all these different blockchains, but it all had to start from somewhere. And it's so many stories like your own where it was like you were passionate about something, you felt like it was a community that you fit into, and like somebody had to get this ball rolling, all this stuff. And so projects like yours and like Mintbase are really the foundation of kind of where we are today and hopefully keep going. So
Sweet.
transitioning to Mintbase, so as Mintbase has started to grow, and no pun intended, as you're working on growth, what is the main focus? Because there are a lot of different projects you mentioned already. The wallet, obviously, there's still the NFT marketplace is there. These templates. I think there's some other things you guys are working on too. What is the main focus right now for Mintbase?
Yeah. So not to go too far into alpha land, but the current focus is really leaning into the strengths of Near Protocol and the ecosystem, and that's really around the account and chain abstraction, which is unparalleled in crypto. The fact that those concepts are baked into the chain at a protocol level unlocks so much possibility.
Hmm.
Mintbase is very familiar with that technology, sees the strength of Near. Mintbase is built on Ethereum and other chains besides Near. And having that kind of overview with the wallet and the different indexing powers that have been built in-house at Mintbase, we'll be leaning heavily into probably relayer land and the the end goal of all of that, like that's all technology that enables something. And the something that we're aiming to enable is taking all of the complexity of crypto, the fact that right now users are juggling wallets across several chains, if they're power users, or they have no idea what a wallet is if they're everyday
Hmm.
users, and get rid of all that complexity so that at the end of the day, brands and creators can come in and do an activation that takes advantage of digital collectibles and how ownership is going to work in the future. And be successful with it, get conversions out of it, actually find that it's, more cost effective and a better system than what they're using today. So that's the goal.
That's, I mean, it's super exciting, and so as a developer myself, running my own project, having the tools available from Mintbase have been huge, and it's really allowed for us at Shardog to speed up development at times, whether it's leveraging the wallet. We've burned out that indexer, so I mean, the indexer for us again is huge, and I sometimes wonder maybe where it almost needs to be its own set of marketing in the sense of like not just that we have these tools, but how it's a different mindset than coming from Web 2, where you have to like pay for all these different things and you have to stand up all this different stuff to maybe like get started and make an MVP on Web 2. There's a lot of these things that already exist today that are either open source or free and actually working and battle tested. Can you talk a little bit about some of that different mindset of where like coming from Web 2 to now Web 3, what people should think about?
Yeah, yeah, I think that like conceptually the biggest leap is like maybe less of a technology one and more about as I mentioned kind of the future of ownership, because
Hmm.
I think a lot of developers when they look at something like crypto or blockchain, the big question is why. And in the big picture of how people have thought about ownership over the years, things have changed rapidly over the last few decades, where we went from physical media to people wanting to own files to people wanting to own access to streams at their own convenience. And I think that the next evolution is going to be something with some provability built into it, like blockchain. And when we look at that trajectory, um, the the growth of blockchain is inevitable. I just see it coming. So I think that explaining that part to developers is actually the harder part. Like when I go out and present to, JavaScript meetups and stuff, usually there's, a bunch of jokes about crypto and blockchain and degens
Yeah.
and all those things. And, it's true, it's part of the culture. It
Yeah.
has to be acknowledged. But then also, there's something very serious about the sovereignty, the decentralization, and the provability that blockchain provides. So
Sure.
I think that that mental shift is the big one. And then um, hopefully the goal with the Mintbase tooling is that the technology shift isn't that big. We've got the Mintbase JS tooling to start doing like writing to the blockchain, and then we've got the familiar GraphQL for reading from the blockchain, and hopefully that technology shift isn't too big of a leap.
Yeah. So let's take a look a few minutes. I'm gonna bring up your screen here. Maybe you could just like talk us through some of the different things here that I know you had some thoughts of we wanted to kind of
Yeah.
show off to people. And then we can maybe dive a little bit deeper into what some of the templates actually are doing and how devs can leverage them.
Yeah, so I mentioned that a lot of people have seen kind of the marketplace for Mintbase, and that's what a lot of people see as the front end. But then wanted to um, show that like even from a Web2 developer standpoint, one of the most easy things to do is to take advantage of the referral program. So on any NFT on Mintbase, if you use the referral link, you get half of the fee for that NFT sale. And Tradeport is an example of a market that has taken full advantage of that. Tradeport has great tooling for looking at NFTs across different chains. And by taking advantage of the referral links, they're actually the leading referrer for sales on Mintbase. So even as a Web2 developer, you could, design a fancy front end, start driving some traffic, and then make referral sales that easily with, basically zero Web3 experience. But if you want to dive a bit deeper, then can get into the current documentation around Mintbase, and this is where we outline how to get started with Mintbase JS and the different libraries that are available there for popular front ends like React, and being able to deal with all the different things you need, and then also the GraphQL indexer showing the playground where you can start querying data that's relevant to your application. So that's kind of the two ends is like if you're a very beginner developer can start doing referral links right away, and then if you're more advanced, can dive into the actual libraries and start seeing under the hood what's driving things like templates. And then the templates, we get to a kind of middle ground where the goal is to have things that are basically like activations that are ready to go. So you don't have to dream up like, oh, what would I even want to do with blockchain? Like these are things that we've seen brands and creators reach for and they work and they're ready to go. If you have your audience, then these are some fun, interesting things that you can do with them.
Hmm.
Um, so that's where the templates come in, and they they are a wide range of like capabilities. The getting started example is literally just here's a login to allow people to log into your application with a wallet. So that's less of like a full activation, but it's an important step that people need to take to understand how wallets and everything fit into this. And then all the way to something like Minsta, which is like a full minting platform that allows you to do basically a photo booth at your event or around your space or theme, and do all that minting on chain and allow people to do that without having a wallet previously, without owning any crypto, just get right into creating on the blockchain. So um, it's a, when we have all the templates, we have kind of like a walkthrough of how you clone them and set them up, and then also have live examples of like what does this thing look like when you actually get it going, to inspire people. So this is an example that happened around an Indian holiday, and people were celebrating, sharing all the different things um, that happened during the holiday. So yeah, that's kind of the idea. There is like ready to go activations that brands and creators can use.
That's
And that,
awesome. Yeah. So I'm a developer. Maybe we'll start with the basic here. I'm new to Web3 and blockchain and crypto and all that stuff.
Mhm.
And I hear about I can get started easily with them. I think every developer understands the concept of templates.
Mhm.
What's step one?
Yeah, so step one, I think, would be taking a look at the wallet starter, because this one is it's got everything stripped away. So what you're looking at is really just like what does Web3 integration look like? And because of that, you can really focus on the steps. And what we're doing here is just the basic connection. So when we do step one, if you're familiar with the command line utilities, then you just npx create Mintbase starter next, and you've got this project cloned and you're ready to go. If you're a little bit newer to development and you want a softer start, you can hit deploy, and right on Vercel, you can go and deploy the application that way without having to do anything on your local host, can get it up and running with a single click. So those are the two kind of routes in,
Hmm.
depending on your level of comfortability. And yeah, it's really that easy. And then once you've done this first starter and walked through it and kind of like found some success, the idea is that you'll be able to jump into some of the other interesting um, templates that exist for like running a blog chain. You're running your own marketplace, integrating AI with these things and things like that.
Awesome, awesome stuff. So a question that comes to mind is, uh, can I deploy on both testnet and mainnet? And what about funds?
Yep. So by default, all of the templates start out on testnet because we assume that's where developers are going to start their journeys. It's kind of scary jumping into mainnet
Yeah,
and needing funds.
yeah.
And then there's faucets available to go and get funds. I don't know if right now on testnet, if you get an account, does it still come with any testnet tokens? I'm not even sure on that.
A good question. I'm not
Yeah.
sure either.
That's something to check on and update templates with, is to be sure people know how to get some testnet tokens for funding. But yeah, everybody starts on testnet, and then as you are comfortable and familiar with doing the deployments, then can fork and have your mainnet deployment as well.
Nice, nice. Uh, do you directly uh Mintbase has their own wallet.
Mhm.
Do you use that as the main uh login system, or are you still leveraging the wallet selector and things like that?
Um, we see that wallet selector is like the way to go. Diversity is strength, and giving people flexibility and options is the way to go. We obviously have Mintbase as the first choice in wallet selector, because we're proud of what we're building, and we think that the AI capabilities that are there are a big differentiator, not just in the near ecosystem, but across all of crypto, and are excited to build that out further.
Hmm.
But yeah, think that diversity is really important, and hope that other wallets kind of feel the same and are excited about getting cross-pollination of users across these systems.
Is As I start to get more comfortable, I've tried one of your templates. I now want to maybe kind of remix it a little bit, make it more of my own. Uh, is there any licensing that people need to be aware of, or is this fully like just go have fun, see what you can build?
Fully open source and accessible for commercial usage. We want to enable people to earn.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Awesome. I think, and you're a developer yourself. I know there's just a lot here. When you think of, I guess coming into an ecosystem, something else like that, you know, can you just go into a little bit about like why something like besides the obvious of like, hey, here's a starter kit, but like why does a template actually make things a little bit more approachable for a developer new to the in ecosystem?
Well, hopefully when in my development experience, usually the first days of development in an ecosystem around a project are the hardest and the least rewarding. You are trudging through dependencies, just getting something to display at all.
Hmm.
And you don't get much satisfaction out of that. But
Yeah,
once you're over that hump, then you can start, seeing things on the screen and seeing your transactions on the blockchain. And, you suddenly feel like you're doing something, and it's not just environment setup and
sure.
kind of the roughest part. So that's what templates aim to like help people get over at the start. And eventually, yes, you need to know exactly how all these things are wired up because you want to figure out your own build systems that work for, your company's environments or whatever else, and have
Hmm.
your mainnet and testnet deployments and things. But that's something that we feel like people shouldn't have to worry about until they're at the maturity of having found that success and being excited about taking it to that level.
Yeah, I think that's a great point of where it's it can be very daunting early on, and I think sometimes too conversations that we have at DevHub is there is that apprehension of getting started, whether you are Web 2 and you're clean to Web 3, but even if you're coming from another chain and you say, oh, I want to explore near, but I don't really know where to start. I don't know whatever else, and so some of that also is like the different conventions. So how do you address some of that through the template, or do you address some of that through the templates of like introducing them to some of the vernacular that comes along with near?
Um, I think that some of that will, like the way that we have the templates working right now is after you clone the template, the first thing we expect people to kind of dig into is customizing it. So more of like Web2 branding changes and things like that. And then from there, would expect people to kind of dig back into the docs where we have Mint-based JS and break things down into like how the wallet and storage works, and authorization and getting your data from RPCs and things like that work. Um, but it breaks down basically into read and write. And I think a lot of developers are very familiar with those concepts, and teaching how those work exactly in near compared to Web 2 or other Web 3 chains is what it boils down to. So
Mhm.
trying to go for the most generic, accessible, familiar terminology, and then getting further and further into the weeds. And then once somebody has, a good grasp on it, we also have a bounty program with templates for folks to start building out their own templates and get paid for giving back to the ecosystem once they have that level of maturity.
I mean, that's a really exciting piece there too, of having steps to growth, right? I think that's an important piece there. One thing I want to, it just reminded me as you're going through your docs page, is an approach that Mintbase has always seemed to have taken is that while it's heavily Web3 and right, and everyone on the team is very intimately deep and believes in Web3 and all of the different ethos of it, yet everything is made in a way that is super approachable as any type of developer. I would look at like the indexer, the way it's built in GraphQL, right? I mean, that's a very a regular system nowadays for developers to interact with for data. Everything, most stuff is in JavaScript. You've really taken a lot of the where some people get the smart contract, even like the way you're able to deploy smart contracts with a few clicks instead of having to go and write and edit and all these things. Uh, is that something where it takes away any of the importance of what comes with Web3, or is really the long term, like it's not about you know how you get there, is that if you get there.
Yeah, I think that with any learning experience or coming to a new technology, the first thing you have to do is see why it's valuable and be inspired to use it. And then I think that the next step is finding success and feeling like you have done something, to be excited enough to continue on, to
Sure.
get into the weeds of, how exactly is all this stuff fitting together? Um, how many validators are there? Like all of those details that kind of do get into some of the more nitty gritty of what decentralization means and why this technology is so important, why sovereignty is so important,
Yeah.
in those things. So I think that it's important to get there, but even more important is just being excited to play with it in the first place.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. One of the things, personally, I think we try to do this at DevHub, is that we need to get you to explore and play around with the ecosystem a little bit. And the easiest way to do that is to give you stuff that's familiar, and to give you stuff that doesn't seem so foreign. Because, like you said, like that beginning time can sometimes be the most painful because it's this like learning curve, right? Of like maybe it's a new syntax, maybe it's a new language. If you've never used Rust and now you want to use Rust, like good luck. So sometimes that transition for people is daunting, and so I love the approach here of let's make it feel familiar, and then when you're ready, you can start to level up through all of this. No,
Absolutely. Yeah.
that's really exciting. I don't necessarily, we're not trying to push alpha on the show or anything like that, but like, where do you see like the next steps for Mintbase and the whole template program? Besides, like I saw the bounty program is awesome, but do you see that as expanding where you are building more templates in house, things like that?
Yeah, so maintaining templates is actually something that takes a lot of effort, and I think that this is a problem across kind of open source development in general, is that maintenance is the hardest question to answer, and funding public goods in the commons is a very hard question to answer. So I think as a next step for our grants program and for templates, what we're looking to do is come up with a more sustainable model
Mhm.
that encourages contribution over time, maintenance, and user feedback loops with people who are creating and maintaining templates, so that it doesn't feel like a one and done thing, but it actually feels like part of a living, breathing ecosystem.
Yeah,
And these are all things that, you know, after a creator or a brand gets their people in the door of the ecosystem, have a plethora of different activations they can reach for and have a content calendar that goes out months if not years,
yeah,
based off of that. So that's kind of like the horizon of where we're pushing towards is sustainability and making sure that things are staying alive over time. And then we want people to dream up whatever they can with templates, and we get a lot of questions about, well, can I build this thing? And when we get questions about that kind of like open-ended, where to build kind of things, um, we encourage people to look at the existing template asks for like what we're hoping people to build with bounties, and take that formatting and form your idea using similar formatting. So we can see kind of
Mm,
like how the technology is coming together, what the goal is, what it enables, what the challenges are, how long it's going to take, things like that.
yep.
Um, and then we're also, because we're so bullish on the fact that we live in a multi-chain present, putting out bounties in, the base ecosystem with Farcaster and Warpcast. So we put out a bounty for developing frames so that these um, drops that Mintbase enables can show up in the base ecosystem, and we got that live and deployed. So that was a really cool activation and an example of a successful bounty.
Hmm.
And we hope to see more of that, just like being able to enable things across chains. And as the AI capabilities of Mintbase mature and it's more obvious how to build for and take advantage of those AI abilities to build out interfaces on your behalf and things like that, I think that a lot of templates are going to gravitate towards that AI centric interface where instead of just sharing like a link to a smart action that has been run, it's possible to have something that's more interactive. Um, and right now, you can share a link to like this AI. I told it make a free mint of an NFT of a kawaii anime girl image, and it went and it did all these things. In the future, you'll be able to look at each one of these steps, edit each step, and then ultimately take all of these steps and package them up in something like a frame that gives people a familiar UI for interacting with the AI that doesn't feel like a wall of text and looking at what transaction got built, but looking at the end result and being able to do something with it. And I think that that kind of familiar interface is going to help, especially Web 2 people, get into um, the crypto world where they have, you know, a chat that they can trust and ask kind of open-ended questions to, but then also start making meaningful queries and doing some transactions with.
Yeah. Well, I mean, certainly making it easier because you're just hitting two things I just wanted to talk about too as well. I definitely want to talk about the AI a little bit, but I want to go back to the Farcaster example
Mhm.
and multi-chain. I know that Mintbase has been diving into chain abstraction. We just had our first chain abstraction work group call right before DevHub Live here, which will be recorded on our YouTube channel. You'll be able to go back and see that. It's a really exciting time in the ecosystem as we start to open this up and really explore some new possibilities. Can you talk a little bit about what Mintbase was actually working on regarding chain abstraction and like the example here of like Parkcaster?
Yeah, so the place where we see the chain abstraction really fitting together is inside of the wallet. And the goal is to have users comfortable with having a single account and that being their touch point, but then being able to take advantage of capabilities across whatever chain the activation or thing that they're curious about is present in without them having to go through the hops of bridging and buying the native token and all of those things. So where Mintbase is really focusing energy right now is solving that friction point. And again, not too much alpha, but very excited for the next few weeks to make some announcements about the direction of where we've um, made some breakthroughs.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I won't push you on anything, but I think it's really exciting, and it's been awesome to see as someone as myself who's been around here for a few years now, the growth of Mintbase always trying to be at the forefront of not just like near technology, but all the things that are going on, and so to see you guys dive so much into chain abstraction and certainly AI, AI has really become a big piece. And I know Luis on your side, your CTO, has done a lot of really interesting experiments so far. Uh, how does you showed the example in the wallet? You talk a little bit more about like the larger vision with the AI and Mintbase too.
Mhm. Yeah. So the way that we kind of frame up AI is it's this essential component of any technology company today. If you're not taking advantage of AI in some capacity, then you're missing out on a lot of, just efficiency in general. So for us, AI is part of how we work, and it's also something that we want to bring to our users. And when we say our users, our demographic is really like developers and people that want to be able to do activation. So we kind of see more technical people, and then people who are creators or brands or marketing agencies and things like that is kind of the two big demographics. And we don't differentiate too much between Web 2 and Web 3 users in those two buckets, because ultimately, like, the developers are more on the technical side, and then the bigger gap is between those who don't have any technical background or knowledge. And the way that we hope that AI can help with this is to fill in a lot of the UI and UX and kind of also conceptual issues that people do hit when they come to Web3 and decentralization, to help get them over that gap as quickly as possible and to help them seamlessly transition into the future of ownership. Um, I think that when waves came through, the way people thought about ownership with MP3s, things like that, people were naysayers for a long time inside of
Mhm.
that. And then streaming, there's people that are naysayers saying it won't work, it can't be. But I think that despite that, when the zeitgeist aligns with how people actually do think about ownership and how that transition happens, it it's a shift, and all people need is just a ramp, a comfortable ramp into that world where suddenly it's the thing that makes the most sense to them and they do it. So that's what we're working on with the AI tools, is finding that happy place, and it takes a lot of experimentation to get there. And that's why AI is so powerful, is how quickly it allows you to iterate on interfaces and to build them out. And there's a kind of common misconception that AI solves all the problems, and it really doesn't. What it does is it allows you to operate more efficiently. So we're not expecting to just give people raw access to an LLM and expect them to successfully come up with transactions that will run on the blockchain. That would be a disaster. People would lose their funds immediately. So what we're trying to do is come up with some templates within the AI system, understand the intent of the user, map those to existing templates, and then also give them access to take that template and fork it and make it their own. Um, and that's where it kind of like ties back into the templates, is making sure that from that first experience of just like being on board with the future of ownership, going and understanding what you own and how to transact in that world, and then also starting to do your own creations and contributing and adding value in the ecosystem. Like, that's the big ramp that we see, and that's the funnel that we're trying to help people through.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense, and it's certainly an exciting time. And like you said, you almost have to always be considerate of some kind of AI usage, whether it's through your own strategy, whether it's a tool you're using, whatever it might be. So it's really exciting to see that for you guys. And is it something where, again, the wallet piece becomes the hub of all of this for you guys? Is that where you're thinking of that, like where everything begins with the wallet, and we're going to put people things there?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, more and more of the functionality you see in kind of the classic Mint-based marketplace site, and where the templates and developer tooling is showing up, will all be visible in the wallet.
Awesome, awesome. While we're speaking of wallets, if you don't mind, we'll take a quick question, maybe that you might know. If you don't know, it's okay.
Mhm.
So we have a question. When will the Mint-based wallet be available on Ref Finance?
Mm. Days, if not weeks.
Okay. Uh,
But it's under active development. Yeah, we're ironing out a few last rough edges, and soon
Awesome.
TM.
Awesome. Awesome. That's definitely a challenge. With a wallet and maintaining all the projects that you guys are maintaining, is does that become a challenge in itself? I mean, it's for you as running growth, especially where you have all these different verticals. How do you make sure that you are spending the right time in growing in the right areas?
Mm. No, it's a huge challenge, especially in a team like Mintbase, which is engineering founded, engineering driven and led. The thing that engineers commonly do is find something shiny and build around it, and then they find
Sure.
the next shiny thing and build
Yeah,
around it.
I get it.
And that has created in the Mintbase ecosystem a ton of really cool things.
Yeah.
So from my perspective, coming in and focusing on growth and connecting those cool things to users, what it does is it gives me a ton of raw material to work with. There's just a plethora of different interesting things that can be done. And the challenge then is like tying them together, seeing where to put the focus and balancing that out because inevitably a decision to do one thing means choosing not to do another.
Right.
And that is something that I try and get everybody comfortable with and thinking about as far as like how your work actually lines up to value for users. And for a lot of developers, that sounds like a drag to begin with. But once they have that like feedback loop and the epiphany that people are enjoying and using their things, and it's not just an imaginary user on the other side,
Yeah.
it's actually really satisfying and it makes the work all that much more fun. So that's usually how the cycle goes when I'm getting a new team kind of on board with the user feedback loop. Is it's a little bit of pulling teeth to begin with, but then once the epiphanies are there, it's a lot more exciting.
Yeah, yeah, no, it sounds like it, and I could certainly empathize with the chasing the shiny thing because there's a lot of exciting things happening, and I do feel like a lot of people join and get into Web3 because of wanting to find that excitement and wanting to relive that, and and depending on your age, and I'm on the older side. If you remember like the early .com days, and you go back to right like the boom, in the 2010s, early 2010s of all of the Web 2 companies, this is almost now like this new upstart. And so if you missed it or you're part of those things, it feels really exciting. So it is hard to like make sure you're staying somewhat focused. But you guys have done a really nice job, I will say, in not just building things out but actually making things usable. So like I think you've done a nice job of having like, experiments, as well as then like this becomes something that people can actually use. Templates is a great example of that. Uh, as we kind of come near the end, I'd love to take a couple minutes of just maybe you yourself stepping away a little bit from Mintbase. Uh, where do you see, I guess, the general uh, developer experience on near, I guess, today? So not just from Mintbase side, the whole thing. Where do you feel like that a developer really can start to grow and thrive coming to near?
Yeah, I think there's for developers kind of like two things that are interesting about Near. I think that from uh, one of them is just like being kind of a self-starter, somebody who wants to hack on something on the weekend or start their own startup, something like that. That's one kind of like bucket. And then the other one is more on the uh, corporate side or professional side of having a skill set that fits into something bigger and knowing that the tools that you're bringing with you can enable things at the scale that large corporations demand,
Mhm.
like AWS scale. So those are kind of the two developer buckets that I see being attracted to the near ecosystem. I think that for the folks that are just on the like the hacking and getting started and excited to build side, um, that developer demographic is a little bit harder to attract to near because inside of the crypto ecosystem, there are so many shiny things, and where you land really like the thing that matters most is who you're talking to, who your friends are, and if what profile picture caught your attention this week and you want to go look at
Sure.
what that's about.
Yeah.
So I think that that demographic, what Near has to offer, is a very open culture. If people are attracted to open source in general, one of the first things that attracted me to Near was the fact that I could every week get on YouTube and see in a live call what the protocol developers were working on. There was no smoke and mirrors. There wasn't any faking it till we make it. It was actually the teams that were talking about the problems that they were facing and how they were dealing with the challenges. And I didn't have the technical depth to follow along 100%, but
Hmm.
I could tell enough that I was like, okay, this is real. This is actually a thing. So I think that from that perspective, if you're into open source development, Near is an incredible ecosystem to jump into for hacking on projects and making them
Sure.
sustainable. I think that that's another big thing that is really attractive about Near. Um, and then the AI history as well, like the fact that this is a system that was designed to make AI sustainable and profitable for humans in the long term. Like those are
Yeah.
all things that would get the self-starter hackers involved. Um, I think from the other demographic, and this is where I think a lot of traction comes from, is developers who need something that works at scale, seeing Hot deliver, seeing Sweat deliver, seeing Kai deliver, and knowing that the chain keeps on going when you have 30 million users on it,
Hmm.
when the chain is supporting three of the top 10 dApps in the world in crypto, and
Yeah,
it's still going, like that gives you a sense that okay, like this sharding thing is working out, like something's working here.
for
This is
sure.
something I can put some time behind learning about.
Yeah. I'm on board with all of that. It's funny. That's one of the things that got me too with those community calls, of being able to jump in and see that. I had never experienced that. I came from a very heavy Web 2 enterprise kind of building, and to see the openness and to talk about things. And I remember even just like being asked a question of like, "Hey, what's your perception of this as the new guy?" And it was like, "Me? Like what? It was just." It always felt inclusive, and so I still to this day I do feel like that, and we have a lot of great work group calls that continue here, so that is certainly exciting. One last thing, one thing I know is near and dear to you personally is NFTs. You have probably the largest NFT collection on Near. I would I don't know if anyone has more, but and I'm very deep into NFTs too with my own project. We leverage the technology of NFT a lot. And Mintbase, obviously, that's where that all got started from. Where do you see the evolution of NFTs just in general? Not necessarily on Near, but like the evolution of NFTs going. Is it still going to be just more of the art piece of it, or does it become much more? Do you think over time?
I think it'll be much more. I think that one of the things about the crypto world in general is that um, the same tried and true things keep on happening over and over again. People do fungible token launches and non-fungible token launches when smart contracts are capable of so much more than that. They're these primitives that when somebody finds the right fit for can enable anything transactionally. And that's what's so exciting about it, is that there's so much untapped potential when only 5% of the world has interacted with crypto, and even a smaller amount of developers have looked at it. And we have really two successful models, maybe three if you count DAOs, for how people kind of like interact with value in this new way.
For sure.
There's so much wide open space to be explored. And I think that that's part of when we talk about the future of ownership. What is necessary is some more experiments in people that are willing to try something new that's not just the same old cycle where we know the shape it's going to take with a token launch or something like that, but willing to try a new way of capturing value and a new shape of an economy that they've thought up and done some clever design around. I think that that's the wide open space for NFTs, and to kind of get away from those two terms of fungible tokens and non-fungible tokens and just think about like digital collectibles in general or value capture in general and how those things appear on chain in a decentralized way.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's certainly an exciting time. There's definitely some, I think we'll see as the AI vision gets more clear too. You can see how all that starts to go together around ownership, verifying all those different pieces. So it's definitely a cool time to be building. Uh, just kind of last thing, any last pieces you want to share about Mintbase, but anything before you go?
If you want to keep up to date, definitely, follow on Twitter, on Farcaster. We also have a Substack where we have our weekly newsletter going out, so that's probably the best place to catch all the alpha as it comes. And yeah, thanks so much for having me on. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, they've got. I mean, as you guys continue to build, we hope you guys come back. You have, whether it's you or your other team members, or maybe a whole bunch of you can all kind of jump on because, especially when the new stuff comes and gets released in a couple of weeks, we'll certainly be curious about all of that. Thanks, Jordan, for taking
Absolutely.
the time. I really appreciate it, and looking forward to seeing more out of you guys.
Cool. Thank you. My pleasure. Take
All
care.
right, take care. Thanks. All right, that was exciting. That I think if you have not been exposed to Mintbase, hopefully this was a great introduction and primer. As a developer, there are so many awesome opportunities there. It's, again, whether you are, even if you're just kind of interested in making a project, you're not an overly experienced developer, as Jordan was walking through, there's opportunities from so many different ways to kind of start building and start coming up with projects and working on things. And if you are experienced and you have some ideas, but you're not sure how to implement them, I would definitely check out their bounty program and look into other things like that that are available. So this has been really exciting. I want to wrap up with a couple different items before we go. And so one of the things that are coming up is, let me pull up my screen here. So I'm going to pull up my screen, and we do have tomorrow we do have our protocol work group call, and that is happening tomorrow at 5 p.m. UTC. So Jordan talked about being able to come on and actually listen in and hear how decisions are made, and maybe eventually even contribute. You can any of these are open calls. You can come in. There's 2 NEPs that are being voted on, and that's an exciting opportunity to kind of see how this all works and what's going on. Let's see. Let's try. We can pull up what they're actually voting on tomorrow because that might be good too. Let's do the 2 NEPs. So if you want to look at an NEP, and let's actually show how this kind of works here. So I'm gonna pull up. So in GitHub, so all this is open source. All this is available. You can actually see the pull request for the NEP. This is one of the ones that are being voted on. And again, so if we bring up again here, so you see we have number 536 and 540 being voted on tomorrow. And here it is, and you can see what it is. This proposal reduces the number of refund receipts and optimize the performance of the protocol. So again, you can see all the different details here, how it will be implemented, and this becomes again eventually part of the protocol. And you can see the whole conversation. It's all out in the open, and this is even open where people can contribute if they feel like they have some expertise around this. So it's a nice opportunity. We can see what 40 is as well. Let's look at what 40 is. Love the sound of this. Reduce storage taking price by 10x. So these are things, again, these affect all developers. And so when we talk about different storage, costs and things like that that go into developing in Web3, these considerations around the protocol are here. Again, everything kind of has 2 sides to it, and it's important to understand both the good and the bad. Just because we're saying we're reducing cost of something that's not always as simple as it just being a win for everybody. And so it's good to kind of learn a little bit more about what are the pitfalls when sometimes you do reduce certain costs and things like that. And you can see the whole discussion again here right on GitHub, as well as you can actually, again, you can join the call tomorrow and be part of that. If you missed it earlier today, we did also have our first chain abstraction community call. If you're near or near to the concept of chain abstraction, again, this is an opportunity where you can interact with other blockchains through Near, and it's a really awesome implementation where it simplifies the process of being able to actually send different payloads to the chains and be able to leverage everything through one account set here on Near and really make a killer user experience because you don't have to have people jumping through multiple wallets, bridging, things like that. So if you want to get involved, learn more, things like that, you can continue to join those community calls. You can watch the video that will be live on up live on YouTube later. For this first one, we have tons of resources in our own community. If you wanted to see any of our community information, I'll pull this up on the screen here too. So near devhub.org, we have a community section. You can go right there. You'll see chain abstraction right near the top. Jump in there. You can see the resources. We have links to the documentation, different videos, GitHub repos, all the different stuff that's there, and you can stay up to date. It's really an exciting opportunity. The last thing I definitely want to leave with everyone here is let me just a kind of reminder here. We have a newsletter that comes out regularly, and one of the things that we're really again excited about here at DevHub is we are really trying to make sure you get all of the updates that's happening in the near ecosystem for developers. There is so much going on, from chain abstraction to AI to just basic building to updating our tooling, our SDKs. And so our weekly newsletter is the place to go. We have all the information there, upcoming events, hackathons, whatever you could think of that involves developing here at Near. That's all through that newsletter. So we really hope that you sign up and get started there. If you ever have questions, again, we're always available, especially on Telegram. You can come to our dev support there. If you're in the Near Discord, there is a support channel for developers in the Near Discord as well. We are also on Twitter. You can connect through the live streams and things like that as well. I really encourage you to please, come reach out if you have any questions. And keep following up, because we have lots of great stuff coming in the following weeks. Our YouTube channel is growing, and we have some more content coming there as well. And it's one of the opportunities right now where if you are a curious builder, it's a great time to join the ecosystem, because there's just a lot going on. Thanks everyone so much for joining. This has been another episode of DevHub Live, and we look forward to seeing you again same time next week. Thanks.